Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show on the 29th of December. 2 short days left. What is it, about 51 hours left or 52 hours left before the new year? And the Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, Long Island's largest rock salt provider and a provider of everything you need to get through winter storms. What might be useful in some places in the Northeast come Friday will be some scrapers to get ice off windshields and some other surfaces. And of course, there's Petalo calcium chloride pellets, which, by the way, I've been told the best out there in snow melting products. And of course, all the rock salt you could possibly get your hands on. Long Island's largest rock salt provider and serving the tri state area with your winter weather needs. 631 756 1125, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue, just north of the Southern State Parkway in West Babylon on Long Island. And the website is omnitruevalue.com. Well, a crisp business-like good evening, Mr. Rayo.
It certainly was crisp out there today.
Well,
The high today,
that wind was busy. It was a lot busier than I thought it would be.
the high today was 40, and that was at exactly midnight last night, and we tumbled downward ever since. And I think the last reading I saw a little while ago was somewhere around 30 degrees. So
And headed down
yes,
into the upper teens to mid-20s by morning. Well, we've got the usual crowd on the chat board. Good to see everybody on tonight, and 31 likes so far. But Joe and I are really fascinated by the three-digit number, so we would like to get those likes to 100. So if you like the live stream, hit the like button, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel by using your Gmail account, and then you can participate on the chat board. We love lively conversations, don't we, Mr. Rayo?
we do. And we also like David Fuller, who has already hit the super chats this evening, and we're only about a minute or so out of the starting gate. Thank you, David.
Thank you, David. Thank you. So, busy, really, when you look at it, weather-wise, busy out there with these storms that are running around and all setting us up for Friday across the Northeast. I think there's going to be some icing across Pennsylvania, maybe into northern New Jersey, and Hudson Valley, 84 and points north, I think is a pretty good bet, and also in western New England, Connecticut, Route 84 northward. Seems like a good bet. Not a lot of cold air aloft, but just enough maybe at the low levels of the atmosphere. This high building in, Joe, looks like it might it looks a little colder to me today than it has on every run. It seems to be a little bit colder, so I'm a little concerned with those low levels. Concern
also
me.
why we anticipate now that the icing event, which initially looked like a few days ago, looked like it could get in here late Thursday night, is now being pushed back probably until, at least in my opinion, Joe, not until maybe late morning or early afternoon on Friday. And that's good because, a lot of people will be on the roads heading for whatever for Thursday night, even though they shouldn't really with the COVID situation. But if you're out and about late Thursday into the overnight hours, Thursday night to Friday morning, at least during that time frame, I don't think you'll have to worry about any freezing precipitation. But once we get well into Friday, watch out, especially I think north of and west of Interstate 287, where we could have several hours of freezing rain and sleet and could lead to some slick and slippery road conditions indeed.
Yeah, I was thinking about maybe pulling. I did mention that we could get a little bit of icing down also to 287 and North Jersey west of 287 and north of Route 78 looks like a prime bet. I think in Pennsylvania we're looking. Was thinking maybe 76 as the dividing line. Roadways are easy to identify, but folks, just bear in mind they're not exact as far as where the boundaries are going to be. So it might bleed a little south of those roadways. It might bleed a little north of those roadways. But we give you the roadways because I think everybody knows interstates for the most part, or at least their GPSs know interstates. I used to be able to find my way out of anything without ever looking at a map, and Now, so like everybody else, you get so dependent on the GPS. If the GPS doesn't tell you to exit, you won't exit, even though you know you're supposed to exit.
It's true. Well, the GPSs have their own mode or methodology of where they should take you, even though you may know a little bit better than the GPS. And I actually sometimes talk to my GPS and say, no, we're not going your way. My way is better.
Don't listen to her.
Yes, exactly. Or
Okay.
him.
All right. We've got the watches and warnings map up because we have the first weather system that is now moving to the Great Lakes, and this is going to wind up setting the table for the next one that follows for Friday. And right now we have pretty large area of winter weather advisories. And even some winter storm warnings up in northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, back through Iowa and northern Missouri. There's a very large area of ice that's going to occur with this, along with some snow. And winter storm watches are up, and this is for, I believe this is going to be for event number 2 with the next low that develops. So we've got winter storm watches up in southwest Texas. And you don't see that too often. I was looking at some of the forecasts down there, and they're talking up to 10 inches in some places in some of those southwestern counties. And they have winter weather advisories just outside of El Paso. Also, watches up for parts of northern Oklahoma, north central Oklahoma, I guess you want to call that, and south central Kansas. I'm thinking they have avalanche. Is that avalanche warnings? Let's see. Well, I know it's not a rip current statement. I'm trying to figure out. Sometimes yes, avalanche warnings up for some of the mountains in the western half of Colorado and southwestern Colorado. And we've got winter weather advisories and a couple of winter storm warnings up for the northern 2/3 of the state of Washington and down the Cascades into Oregon. So a lot of winter weather going on, even though for those snow lovers in the Northeast, it's that part of the equation is lacking at the moment, clearly. But things are happening, and one system always sets the table for the next one. So it's always, I feel, important to just kind of follow the flow as it goes along and enjoy the trip because you never know where it might take you. Correct, Mr. Mayo?
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, it is kind of weird to see winter storm watches or advisories up for, of all places, southwestern Texas, which is a spot you don't often look toward, but it's 2020. What else can I tell you?
Yeah, well, exactly. So on the U.S. satellite view, you see the clouds rolling up through the Great Lakes, and that is a low that is come out of Texas and is moving northeastward. And if you look up on the upper left, you can see the energy now coming into the west, this endless stream of energy that continues to roll one weather system after another, now moving into the Pacific Northwest. And there's going to be some southern energy that's going to eventually come out of all of this and make the storm system for late this week. For New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. For here, it'll be New Year's Day. And meanwhile, here we are just enjoying the cold and the wind and falling temperatures as a new chilly air mass, a new chilly high is building in overnight and for Wednesday.
Yes, and that'll be the key to what we may see here on Friday in terms of frozen precipitation. And you know, I'm not even concentrating too much on the possibility of ice accretion here on Friday. It's just I think it's enough right now on Tuesday, 3 days in advance, to let people know that we do have a possibility for slick and slippery conditions here because of icing, not snow, but icing conditions here during the day Friday. Although I do note, Joe, that on the Weather Service, their freezing precipitation map, which runs from Thursday night to Friday night, 0Z Friday to 0Z Saturday, they do have a slight 10% probability of a quarter of an inch of ice accretion for northwestern New Jersey, parts of the Catskill and Hudson Valley region, and a 40% chance across central and west central Pennsylvania. So that's for again Thursday night through Friday night.
Right.
That pretty much tells the story that If you're going to be doing any traveling in and around our area on Friday, you had better keep a sharp lookout or a sharp check on the weather forecast because, again, it could get rather nasty out there. The worst that you could ask for or not ask for is having icing conditions, and that's what we may be looking at to finish out the weekend. Just in time to kick off the new year of 2021. Everybody's
Right.
saying, oh, 2021 is going to be a lot better. Really? Maybe not,
And by
according to
that
your
was for a quarter of an inch of accretion.
Yeah, it's the
I
NC
have, yeah, I have the WPC map. I'm going to bring it up in a minute because I
and
have it.
the NCEP ice accumulation day 3 probability of at least a quarter of an inch.
Okay.
Valid from Jersey Friday to Jersey Saturday.
All right. Well, I actually have I got the probability map from WPC. I'll throw it up in a moment. Now you know I had to do it, Joe. I had to do it in spite of the hideous reviews that it has received. I pulled up the radar, and I know Bill Rogers on the board was hitting me with the wet noodle yesterday. He was imploring me not to use this, but it's hard to, it's hard to find another radar source of the full U.S. I haven't had a chance to look. Uh, I've seen some others. I haven't found one that ones I have looked at, I haven't really found one that I like. So for now, we'll have to just make do with this and just make believe, okay? Just where you kind of see it looking gray, that's light precip. And where you see the green, that's probably heavier precip with some rain. It is snow up in North Dakota and in Minnesota and on up into northern Wisconsin. And then we've got this icing problem that is going on in the areas a little bit further south where we have the winter storm warning. In the Northwest, seeing some precip rolling in into the west coast, and that actually changes to snow not that far away. And of course, we're going to be keeping our eyes on what's going to be going on with the development of the next low and see what impact it has over parts of Texas. But meanwhile, up and down the East Coast, there were a couple of snow showers that went through here today. I didn't see them, but not too far away. Uh, I think Anthony from Harrison, uh, I believe he messaged me and told me that he had a snow shower go through there in his little tower of power in New Jersey.
Well,
And,
we actually here in Putnam Valley, Joe, around I think 1:30 or 2 o'clock, we had about, well, I'll call them dandruff flakes. I mean, a few scattered, very tiny snowflakes in the air because the skies clouded up a bit during the midday hour, a little bit of convective cloud cover. And out of those clouds, actually, we did have a very, very slight touch of snow for about 5 or 10 minutes, but that's about all we saw.
yeah, there wasn't much. There was more upstate, but there wasn't much. And now all of that's pretty much shut off because the high is finally built in closer to the coastline, so the winds have dropped off to the west. There's still a bit of a gradient though across New England, thanks to a low that's up in eastern Quebec with a cold front approaching our friends in Newfoundland, and then we've got our cold high that is here, and here's the next low that is coming out of the Central Plains and is running up to the northeast. A lot of that precip that's up there was running way ahead of where the low center is. So that's pretty interesting. And WPC on their 7-day rainfall forecast, or liquid precip, I should say, the liquid precip forecast, they actually have cut the amounts back. They've been cutting them back ever since we started to see this weather system for Thursday and Friday evolve into a later Friday, early Saturday type system, and it's coming out completely different, not looking anything like the one for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So
Right.
liquid amounts are running at about 3/4 of an inch to an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter in a few pockets. Still some big rains in the lower Mississippi Valley back through Texas, 3 to 5 inches worth, and a clobbering of rain over the next 7 days. And I'm thinking heavy snow in the mountains. In central and northern California, rain all the way down to southern California, heavy rain up the coast to Washington through to Oregon and Washington, on the order of maybe 5 to 10 inches in some places, and heavy snows in the northern Rockies. So there's it's kind of interesting how all of this is playing out. This winter is I learned something new, Joe, every winter in terms of the upper air pattern. There's always something every year that I've never seen before, and I've got to tell you, this pattern that is set up in the last couple of weeks is about as bizarre looking, I think, as I've ever seen it.
And so what is that going to lead to? Bizarro weather. like in Superman, maybe, right?
Yeah, exactly. So here's WPC's probability for at least a tenth of an inch of accretion. And they have on the 10th of an inch, Joe, they have actually the 40% line cuts through northern New Jersey in half. And actually, in the northwest corner of New Jersey, it's a 60 to 70% chance of at least a tenth of an inch. And then, of course, you see the large area in Pennsylvania, uh, from just north of Allentown northward to the state line, and then, of course, crossing on the other side, on the New York side, into the Catskills, where we're looking at probabilities of 60 to 80% probability of at least a tenth. And the quarter of an inch, as you pointed out, yeah, they've got the 20 to 30% line into northwest Jersey for a quarter, 30 to 40 in the Poconos, and into the western side of the Catskills, and in central PA, up around State College, over toward Williamsport. There they have anywhere between 50 and 70% probability of a quarter of an inch. So, as you pointed out, sir, it's still early and we could still see some adjustments in either direction with regards to this. Um, I don't think it's going to get cold enough down to the coast, the immediate coast, to produce any problems, but you might not have to go too far inland to find some icing out of this system that we're talking about.
And you don't need a lot of icing to cause some problems. The one of the worst icing situations I could ever remember traveling, and my wife remembers this very well. We were going to work one morning. It was like 4 a.m. and we stepped outside, and it was not a glaze. It was just that our driveway was glistening in the light, in the pre-dawn light. And so, oh, look at that! Isn't that pretty? Or whatever.
Isn't
And I
that
got to tell you,
attractive?
that was that was that was one heck of a I mean, I think I skidded like 3 or 4 times, and I'm not talking about just on side roads. I'm talking about like on the Northern State Parkway. It was absolutely horrendous. So you really don't need all that much on the roadways to cause problems. So even folks who right now have like a small probability of a little bit of ice, you may still have a lot of problems on Friday. So we'll keep an eye on that for you.
So I brought up the forecast low temperature map for Friday morning, and these numbers have been coming down over the last couple of days. So now we're looking at Friday morning lows. At Thursday night, Joe, I wonder if Thursday night, after that front goes by and that high builds in, that it might actually clear out for a while. And I think that may actually help bring these temperatures down even lower in some places. But we've got these numbers adjusted down. The freezing line is actually going to be south of New York City, south of Trenton, just north of Philadelphia, and then runs down just about into north central Maryland, the northernmost part of north central Maryland. But you've got 20s, and we're talking low and mid 20s strewn all across central and northern PA, northern New Jersey, the Hudson Valley, lower, middle, and upper, and into Connecticut and into Massachusetts. So this is chilly, low level cold air that we're looking at,
Right.
and sometimes with these highs when they go to your north, you got to be careful because we've had instances where the temperatures have been off by several to many degrees. I'm not thinking that it's going to be off by that much, but there still could be another couple of degree adjustment to this, and that could make the difference for somebody in terms of how much icing they could wind up with.
Well, for the Hudson Valley, I have a wide spread of temperature for late Thursday night and early Friday morning. I've got 32 right on the freezing mark for urban and coastal locations, but you don't have to go too far inland to get into the 20s. And in rural spots, the rural valley sections, I would be surprised to see temperatures down around the mid teens by early Friday morning. And that will set the stage for what may come later on in the day with the first round of precipitation. Because I don't think those temperatures are going to be going up very quickly during the day on Friday. In contrast, by the way, I think tomorrow night, after bottoming out somewhere in the low to mid 30s, I think temperatures may actually start slowly going up tomorrow night, maybe to near or even above 40 in some spots by Thursday
Agreed.
morning.
I said the same thing. We don't
Yeah.
talk to each other, folks. Just so you know, we don't talk to each other during the day when we're doing our forecasts.
And
But yeah, I
40,
did. I said the same thing in my write up tonight.
yeah, 40s to around 50 maybe on Thursday afternoon. So even though we'll get a bit of precipitation, I think late tomorrow night and early on Thursday, that precip is more likely to be of the liquid variety. But you get those temperatures down to that very cold level, like I just mentioned on Friday morning, Joe. Those temperatures aren't going anywhere, and that again sets the stage for what may come our way in terms of precip later on in the morning or afternoon on Friday, and that could mean for some some significant or serious icing problems.
David Erickson says low level cold air is near impossible to be predicted 3 to 5 days out, especially on weather models. My local weather casters are forecasting Worcester Mass to hit 45 on Friday. Not possible.
No,
Yeah, that is a real push up that way. It's hard to imagine you're going to see the warm front get anywhere close to you. And yeah, I don't know. I would say impossible, but I would say that when the models are doing a situation like this, where you get a big high is coming down and building to the north, you just automatically take the temperatures and start knocking them down. And that's what I do. I noticed also the Weather Service on the digital forecast back up until this morning, Joe. They were still showing lows up until maybe last night or early this morning before they updated it from some of the older forecasts. I mean, they were showing temperatures in the 50s here on Friday and only in the 40s for Friday morning because that was all based on models days and days ago showing something that was going to be similar to what we had on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And yeah, it takes a while for for the models to evolve to what now is the new reality, and that is that cold high building into New England on Thursday night and Friday.
yeah, we didn't have that, Joe, on Christmas Eve, Christmas morning.
No,
We
not
didn't
at
have that
all.
cold. We didn't have a cold high north of us, and the warm front that came on through very easily. That's why the temperatures, for goodness sake, at 3 o'clock in the morning where I live, Christmas morning was 62
Yeah.
degrees.
Oh yeah. No.
That ain't happening New Year's Eve.
No.
Excuse me, New Year's Day.
No,
That's
this
not
is a
happening.
total this is totally different. This is a completely different setup. Surface and a loft. It's totally different. I got the snow amounts here for the areas in the Great Lakes. Uh, there's going to be a 6 to 9 inch band of snow in eastern Iowa, northern Illinois, where they got the winter storm warnings up, is all 6 inches plus, and then of course there's a generously large 2 to 4, 3 to 6 area that covers much of the lakes back through Minnesota into the eastern Dakotas, and then it starts to kind of taper down a bit as you go into Kansas. And then, of course, you've got snow being forecast with other energy that's going to be moving into West Texas soon enough. And those numbers, you can see what they're going. South of Midland, Odessa, they actually give 5 and an area south and west of there, you near the Mexico border. By the way, if you've ever been down in this area, there's a lot of mountains here, so there is elevation involved, and they do get more snow than you realize. So they're looking at their forecasting. I think I saw there was the 4 to 10 was the general range as far as the snow is concerned. I just give the map a little wide pull just to see what's going on up elsewhere in the northwest. You move your way up the central Rockies, according to an inch or so, and some big numbers, Joe, outside of Seattle and Olympia in the Cascades. I see a 58 print. I see a 31 print. I see a 34 print. They got a lot of blotchy areas up that way of 36 inches plus. So I'm sure they have winter weather advisories up for that.
Oh, I'm sure they
Just
do.
advisories.
Everything is very relative. They have winter weather advisories probably when the amounts get up to like 12 to 18 inches.
Oh, I've
And then
seen
they'll
it. I've
then
seen it
they'll
for.
up it to a warning. They'll up it to a warning when it gets to like the 2 feet.
I
I'm
I
like,
don't I don't know what the criteria is up there for a winter storm warning because I've seen advisories there for forecast for 2 to 3 feet.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Again, everything is relative, and you live in or near the Cascades, and it's a heck of a lot of a different story compared to, let's say, downtown New York City.
Where they never have to worry about low-level cold air because there's always plenty of low-level cold air, Joe, is on the north slope of Alaska. And I just always want to give a big hello to our friend Alfred Phillips, who is watching there in 24 hours of darkness. But he takes the time to watch the Joe and Joe weather show to warm him up. So hopefully you got yourself a nice little brandy or a hot toddy and your feet up near the fire or whatever it is they use to keep you warm up there. And always good to see you on the show. And by the way, 85 likes, folks. Just give us 86. So all we need is 14 more for 100. So let's get over the 100 mark. We really appreciate it. If you like the show, hit the like button. And just under 200 folks on board right now. So that's not too shabby a crowd. So before we do that, Joe, I'm going to let's get the teleconnections out of the way, shall we?
Sure, shall we?
Surely.
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 Yes.
Okay, so let me just explain. There's a few people, the snow weenies who are standing at the cliff because the snowstorm of last week was not nearly enough. Okay, the fact that it's not snowing every day means that this winter is another disaster in the for the Northeast, and particularly for the I-95 corridor. And a number of you are blaming the lack of blocking. Okay, let me make this clear. As far as the blocking slash negative NAO, you couldn't have it better than you have it now. That is not the issue. Okay, by far that is not the issue. In fact, even the fact that the NAO is negative is not necessarily a good thing because it really depends on where the higher the normal pressures in the North Atlantic are. So that's where the driver is one of the drivers is. And I'm showing you the teleconnections here, which have been running mostly negative all month, and they are crashing again as we head into the new year, going to between 2 and 3 standard deviations from the mean. So this is probably the longest period, Joe, that we've seen a negative NAO during the winter months. I think you probably have to go back to 2010, 2011, because it's already going on almost 5 weeks that we have been mostly negative on the NAO, and that looks to continue for the first part of January.
Right.
The Arctic oscillation, which, if you recall from last year, spent the entire winter in record high positive readings, is now is not only been negative since the 1st of December, but in fact, it too is crashing, and we're seeing readings that are going to be by most of the members running between 4 and 6 standard deviations from the mean. There are a couple of members that are not quite as negative. In fact, there's one that shoots up and goes way positive around, say, the 13th or 14th. But all the other ones are negative. So that's not the issue. The Pacific North America Index, the PNA, has actually been running mostly positive since the middle part of the month. Actually, since the beginning of the month, it's been running mostly positive, and it's going to stay generally positive, although not very much, but still on the positive side. It's the one index that we all don't have any more. No one seems to have been able to find it yet because the Weather Service stopped making that beautiful ensemble, of the indices. It's the East Pacific Oscillation, folks. It's the pressures that are in the East Pacific that when you look at, and I've got the ensembles will be coming up in a moment, but and I also have the view that we can look at it from the top down from the Arctic region. But here we are. This is a shot when you see it come up, this is the uh, upper air jet stream pattern for this coming Sunday. Okay, and all of this This is thousands and thousands of miles of lower than normal pressures from Western Canada across the entire North Pacific on both the west side and the east side, and it continues into Asia. And this is horrible. You've got a fire hose that is coming into the west for the most part. So this is wonderful. All this up here in the Arctic region, the Arctic, the negative Arctic oscillation, the higher than normal pressures in the North Atlantic, that is all in favor for folks in the East. But it's this mess back in here in the East Pacific that has to break down in order to uh, open the door for some opportunities here in the Eastern United States. That's
So,
what it boils down to.
so what are we saying? We're saying that we want a negative East Pacific oscillation if we're into cold and wintry weather here in our part of the country.
Right. At the very least, Joe, we got to get the pressures are so low. The East Pacific oscillation on some forecast charts that I happened to see over the last couple of days, showing the East Pacific oscillation running 3 to 4 standard deviations above the mean. So all of the teleconnections are in extreme modes, but the problem is the one that I've always said is the most important, and that's the EPO. It's extreme in the wrong direction. So at the very least, we got to get this to get cleaned up here. It has to go away. It had the lower pressures that are all out here have to at least come back to the neutral line, and running through the ensembles again. And I would be really cautious about this because every day in the long range, it shows those pressures weakening. In other words, they're rising in the Eastern Pacific, but they never seem to get there. So I would like to see a little bit of reality take over as far as um, the what's going on out in the Pacific. So that's where the repair job is needed. Not every, the other places are fine. Let them stay that way, the way they are. If you're a snow lover, it's the Pacific that once again, if the Pacific doesn't mess you up on the southern part of the Pacific, the northern part of the Pacific does. So you can't win.
As you've been talking, I went on Google and I've been trying to find, maybe there's something that you overlook. I'm trying to find some place that gives the very latest um, map showing us what the North Pacific oscillation looks like, and unfortunately, I have not been able to find anything. So I'm now just as annoyed as you are.
Yeah,
There really should be some place that you could find this, but on the World Wide Web, if there is, it certainly is. I'm certainly missing it right now.
I saw a European forecast of the East Pacific oscillation that someone put up. I believe it might have been from Weather Belt. I don't know. I'm not sure. But that's where it had off the European model. It had the East Pacific oscillation strongly positive for at least the next 10 days, and then it started to weaken it toward after day 10. So uh, we can only hope and pray, I guess, for snow lovers. We got to get that fixed. That's where the repair job has to happen, and nothing stays permanent forever. Patterns always eventually do break down, so you just have to be patient. All right, so I got the NAM up. So here's tonight's snow moving through the northern Great Lakes. You start to see the precip break out tomorrow in West Texas. And then, of course, you've got your cold front, Joe, that moves on through. Maybe a shower Thursday morning when the front goes by. I threw it in.
I mentioned it for late tomorrow night and early on Thursday. No big deal.
Yeah. And
Spotty
then,
shower, maybe a little spot drizzle, or maybe a patch or two of fog. I mean, no big deal. No major concerns there.
Thursday, now that I've gone to the tighter regional view here. So on Thursday into early Friday morning at 1 a.m. Friday, there's a nice, lovely 1033 high sitting somewhere near Jamestown, New York, where you can go to the I Love Lucy museum, the Lucille Ball Museum, if you're ever there. I was there, and it's pretty cool.
Did they
Uh,
ever replace that statue?
uh
That's the one that everybody said that doesn't look like Lucille Ball.
you know what?
Uh,
I did see a statue there, but I don't know if that was the one that they said was a problem and they put in a new one, or if that was actually the original one that a lot of people criticized. I got to go back and look at my pictures because it was a couple of years ago. It never occurred to me. I think I saw a statue there, but I never made the connection over the fact that I remembered about the story, but not at the time that I was up there. So I can't tell you for sure if it was the one that they put up there or that was one that they replaced it with.
I mean, I saw somebody say that the in the episode where Lucy makes believe that she's a her head is a clay bust,
Right,
and the and Ethel is like purposely disfiguring it so that the critic from the New York Times doesn't take it with him.
right.
He said somebody said he says the statue what Ethel did to the clay to Lucy's face was better than the statue
Yes,
they have there in
exactly.
Jamestown.
All right, so here comes our storm, and Joe, this thing's tracking way west. I mean, when you think about where this was going about a week ago with the long range, look at this. I mean, this low actually goes almost northward from Texas up into Arkansas, into western Illinois. It's going so far west that it's allowing that high to build southward. And then you see that area of purple, that's all freezing rain in Pennsylvania. But as you said, it takes longer and longer for it doesn't even reach New York City until Friday evening now.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if that's going to vary. You know, sometimes with warm air advection, things move faster than what
Faster.
is usually projected by the models, and I would not count out the possibility of stuff beginning to fall here sometime during the afternoon hours on Friday. But again, we'll have to just get closer in to be more specific or more precise. I think just the very fact saying now on Tuesday that we say that on New Year's Eve could be problematic, especially later in the day, and that should stand up right now for anyone who's making plans. And by the way, Bill Rogers is asking me if I'm going to watch the Threes Company Marathon on Antenna TV.
No.
Oh, I know the Threes Company Marathon. I didn't even know they were going to have a Threes Company Marathon on Antenna TV. Um, but I'm not planning to do that, Bill.
I
Probably
was
my wife and I will just spend a very quiet Thursday night and Friday morning, just sitting in front of the tube and watching whatever we can watch.
yeah, I
And
was not
you
that
watch an
that
empty Times Square this year, I guess,
that
right?
wasn't on my. I wasn't a fan.
Of Three's Company.
No.
I didn't watch that very much either. So
Yeah. Well, I got the GFS up, by the way, and Friday night, Joe, the warm front. If you draw it from the isobars, I switched over to the precip map instead of the radar map, so we could because the isobars show up much better there. But if you draw it according to where the isobars are pinched, Friday evening, that warm front is still down somewhere in Southern Virginia, and by 1 a.m., it's just let me just draw this cold front in now. It looks like it's crossing southern Delaware, still well south of New Jersey and Long Island, and of course by morning on Saturday, it's pretty much everything's most of the rain is pushed out to the east at this point. The low is sitting up in Lake Ontario and will probably reform in the Gulf of Maine and move
you
out.
know, don't. I mean, if any of you out there are hoping for the warm front to pass by, forget it. We're going to have to rely on that cold front. And you can see we were talking about this a couple of days ago about how the warm air is getting pinched off by the advance of the cold front. The cold front literally is going to act like a gigantic atmospheric crowbar, and as it moves on through, it will pry out all of that shallow cold air. And even though you say to yourself, "Oh, well, the cold front's going to move on through and get it colder behind it," no, that's not going to be the case. In fact, if for nothing else, after that shallow layer of cold air is pried out by the cold front, temperatures on Saturday could very well soar back upward to near 50 by the afternoon, especially, Joe, if we can manage to break out into a little bit of sunshine after a few lingering showers on Saturday morning.
Right, I agree. I agree. Actually, yeah, the temperatures are actually going to go up higher when the cold front goes by, as opposed to when the warm front, which the warm front will not go by. Now, David Erickson brings up another point, and this is what my next question was going to be, is not to overlook the system for New Year's, but the slower, farther west track of the storm, and I agree with you, David, on what your conclusion is here. Models seem to hint that it may allow enough room for another storm to climb up the coast over the weekend. And, I've been watching these models, Joe, playing games with this weekend system. First, we had the parallel GFS kept bringing a low up and making it into a mini snowstorm here for Sunday. Believe it or not, it had on several runs, not consecutively, but on several runs, it had 970-ish lows sitting east of Atlantic City, south of Long Island. Then all of a sudden it was gone and it had nothing. And the GFS has been all along pretty much showing a low forming off along the southeast coast and not really being of consequence. And suddenly on this run now, it has a low east northeast of North Carolina. But the European, Joe, brought the low all the way up. The Canadian brings it up, and now the Icon model, which was not doing anything on its most recent run, brings it up. And the argument is, if you look at the upper air, is about how much room there's going to be, and it apparently appears that because this first system is going so far west and weakening in the upper atmosphere, there's a fairly decent shortwave right behind it that now suddenly has room. There's a two contour cutoff on today's 18Z GFS run sitting in southern Ohio. I mean, I'm looking at the upper air at the 500. It's hard to see how we wouldn't get any precip here on later Sunday into Sunday night.
I've got mentioned some a period of rain here on Sunday. Chilly rain, by the way, because whereas on Saturday I think we'll be near 50, we'll be at least 10 degrees colder on Sunday.
Right.
So it could be that Sunday could be a rather dreary looking blah.
The only way that this could wind up being something other than rain, in my view, is that if you suddenly have so much room that this upper low goes crazy and you wind up with what the parallel GFS and even one of the European runs, I think, might have done something similar too, where you wind up with a really wrapped up low because the upper air feature is so much more intense because there's so much more room. That would be the only way you would get snow out of this, because then you'd have at least some do-it-yourself dynamic cooling cold air you could play around with the upper feature moving overhead. But other than that, and you're going to have to prove it to me, other than that, I would throw in a period of rain here, maybe for, like you said, for maybe later Sunday into Sunday night, and then it moves out. And just looking into next week, I didn't really see anything that rocked my socks off. It looked like it was going to be pretty quiet for most of the week. Seasonal or a little bit above normal, but not crazy above normal. Maybe by a couple of degrees. I didn't really see anything storm-wise. The next system isn't until maybe late next week, according to the GFS anyway.
Yeah, we were talking about a week ago how it seemed like everything was on a conveyor belt, and that we would be seeing one storm after one threat after another every 2 or 3 days, and now even that pattern now looks to be more relaxed. We'll have our share to handle here on Friday, and maybe again that system on Sunday. But then next week, I agree with you, Joe. It doesn't look like all that much to write home about.
Indeed. So we have 109 likes. Thank you very much, those of you who've hit the like button. If you haven't, here's your opportunity. And we've got 243 people on board, which is great. Oh, Alaska Railroad on the chat board, by the way. And here's a great way this is a good way to spend New Year's Eve, Joe. You know what he's going to do? He's hoping to watch the Aurora on New Year's Eve.
Well, up there, they must get 200 nights out of the year, must have some kind of an Aurora. And they've had, in the far north, they've had a couple of very bright displays over the last couple of weeks. To see an Aurora down here at our latitudes, we really need a big outburst, a big flare on the sun, and that doesn't appear to be happening anytime soon. But hopefully we'll get our fair share of views of the northern lights as we approach the peak of sunspot activity. That'll be around 2025. if we're all still here in 2025.
I mean, I'm planning to be. I'm not,
Well, we
you know,
all plan we all plan
I'm
to
still
be
booked.
well. We all plan to be somewhere by 2025, Joe. But whether or not you never know what's around that next corner.
Right. Christina Pedia popped on the board tonight. She's watching on PBS tonight the Laurel Ingalls Wilder biography on PBS. The Little House on the Prairie writer.
Yes, yes.
I
They even
saw.
had toward the end of that series, that run, Little House on the Prairie. You actually saw Laura Ingalls considerably more grown up than when she started the series as Little Half Pint. You got to see that she was beginning to get into writing, and in fact, even on the verge of becoming famous. So, leading into what eventually turned out to be a very successful writing career with that series of books about uh, Little House.
Correct. I'm just running through the chat board here to see if we missed any other
Joseph
comment.
Gallo asks me, Mr. Rayo, have you ever caught the auroras from Putnam Valley? When we first moved here in 2002, in September of 2002, we had a great display. We were able to sit down and watch it from our back deck. It was a wonderful display. But since that display back in 2002, I have not seen a single, not the tiniest little vestige of auroral activity. That's in part due to the fact that we've had a very long stretch of very low level solar activity for the last 10 or 11 or 12 years or whatever.
Right.
The best aurora I ever saw, and I don't know if you remember, Joe, because it was late on a Sunday night, and I left a phone message when you were working the morning at News 12 Long Island about this magnificent
Oh,
display.
yeah, yeah.
And and we, I mean, it was this from Levittown, Long Island, folks. Like 80% of the sky was lit up by aurora, and we didn't exactly have the darkest skies in Levittown. But so it is possible that you could see an aurora from down here in our latitudes. But again, you really need a very potent solar flare to interact with the with
And
the
what was it? A couple of weeks ago, we thought we were going to have that, and then it wound up fizzling
yeah,
out.
yeah. It's unfortunate. Sometimes you make a prediction that say, hey, this we're going to see one tonight, and it doesn't happen. And then there are other times when it just surprises you. You say, where did that come from?
Yeah. Keith James asks, bring back the library visits after the pandemic, please. Well, I actually did. I did one for Bayport Blue Point, I believe it was, on Zoom back a couple of months ago, but that's been it. Yeah, I mean, once we go back to something resembling normality, then if I get invited to do a library talk, sure, I will definitely do that. And I just want to acknowledge that Steve Lapointe has hit super chat tonight. Thank you, Stephen. Really, really appreciate it very much. Joe, we
And Joe,
got
there's
that.
Steve suggests about the weather underground radar. And I just put it on the chat board. I don't know if you can make a copy of it and check it out yourself. It doesn't look bad. I certainly like it a lot
All right,
better than.
let me make a copy of this link. All right, nobody write anything while I copy this. Okay, because I'm on another monitor, so let's take a look. As long as let's take a look at this. Oh, it came up page not found. Unless I no, where is it? Control V. Hang on. All right, actually, I could go to Maps and Radar. I assume that's where you got it from. Was it the interactive radar?
No, it was just, well, they give you several choices.
There was Radar Maps.
Yeah.
So I'll go to Radar Maps. Okay, I'll put it up on the screen, Joe. You tell me if this was the one. Okay, so just hang on a second. I have to direct right now, so I'm directing. This is the weather undergrounds map. Should be coming up on the screen as soon as the time lapse, the time delay. Was that the one? Was it like kind of grayish on the topography?
I haven't seen it yet pop up.
Okay. Very light blue oceans.
I mean, when I saw it before, Joe, I pulled it up. That's basic. I mean, it's not as good as what we had, but it's certainly a lot better than what is being offered by
You know who.
yeah.
Whoops. I don't know what just popped up on the screen. No, a commercial. Good, great. If we want to use a radar, we have to watch a commercial. Hang on one second. Let's go. Let me get you back on here. Oh, this is not good. Now you disappeared.
But
Hang on.
you can animate that, can't you? I know a
Um,
button that said animate.
yeah, you know what? I'll play around with it off camera, but there's a commercial that's
I
running.
know.
So let me get rid of that.
State Farm is there,
Yeah,
like a good neighbor.
just lovely. So anyhow, all
Now,
right.
Earl Warren, Joe.
The Earl Warren,
I don't know. I've never
he's
seen him.
taking time out of rendering judgments on the Supreme Court to come on the Joe and Joe Weather Show.
7 a.m. local time Tuesday, the mean sea level pressure at Setsun Ul, Mongolia, rose to 1,094.3 millibars or 32.31 inches, a bone chilling temperature of minus 49.9 degrees, minus 45.5 Celsius.
And you can thank the miserably positive EPO, East Pacific Oscillation, by the way, for locking up all that Siberian air um, over Siberia, which is why they have this ridiculously high pressure and combined with ridiculously low temperatures.
Well, I still think we're going to have a lot of winter to get through about, mid or late
Yeah,
February into March. I think it's going to be a backload. I'm thinking more and more this is going to be a backloaded winter, Joe.
everybody's got the snow lovers got to calm down. Nobody, really stop. None of you know exactly what's going to happen, and I will just again, I will go back to a week and a half ago, or almost 2 weeks ago now, where we wound up with a snowstorm in the Northeast. In some places, it was a record-setting snowstorm, and I guarantee you that a week to 10 days before that, all those people were that are crying now were crying then. So relax. There'll be opportunities along the way. The models will not show you today. If look here, the other way to look at it is this: if we pulled up a GFS right now that had a snowstorm at day 10, at day 7, 10, 12, and 16, okay, they probably aren't going to happen. So why do you care if the models are showing something? Because it really doesn't matter. They're just blurs in the long range, and you're gonna at some point an opportunity will present itself again. It did before, and it will again. It's that simple. It's
Absolutely.
just not going to do it anytime in the next couple of days.
And I see somebody wrote United Heretics Rising Generals Constitution keys.
Or
Because
something, right?
I saw the aurora borealis up in Warrensburg, New York, in the Adirondacks, and I used to go there even before I was married, and then we took after we were married, we took the kids up to Warrensburg. There's a nice little place there called Thurman where I used to do a lot of stargazing. Dippy Kill, not too far away from the great American amusement park, which is near Lake George. Well, it's a lovely, lovely area that I haven't been there in many years now, and yeah, that's a nice place to get away, so to speak. Haven't
Uh,
been there though, in almost 20 years. So I hope it hasn't gotten such to the point where so much light pollution that you can't see the stars anymore up there.
Peter Bicker says, was the EPO positive during the snowstorm a couple of weeks ago? No, it actually wasn't, Peter. Well, no, let me take it back. I'm sorry. It actually, I believe it was. It was maybe, it wasn't strongly positive, but it was slightly positive. But we had a 50-50 block. The NAO was there, negative, strongly negative, and it overcompensated for what was probably a relatively horrible Pacific. Smat Amat says this: without the December 16th storm, me JC would have been wrong about not throwing in the towel for December. Okay, but that what you just said makes absolutely no sense. Do you understand, Joe? Do you understand why it doesn't make any? So you're saying that because we had the snow, if it wasn't for the snowstorm, but we did have the snowstorm. So so it's like saying if it wasn't for the fact that I was that you were wrong, I would have been right. That's what you're saying, which is ridiculous. Just so we're clear, I would have been right if it wasn't for the fact that I was wrong. that,
Well,
that
look,
that's really what he's saying. And I don't know, it just renders it, it just I just find it hilarious that you can justify being wrong by playing down a historic snowstorm.
all I'll say in terms of this upcoming winter, and I think I've said it before, and I'll say it again. In at Central Park since 1869, there have been nine, count them, nine times that we have had a December where more than 7.7 inches of snow has fallen in the month of December. Nine times. And every single time that has happened at Central Park, 9 out of 9, the resultant winter snowfall has been at or above 40 inches. That's 100%. If you go by these statistics, 100% of 40 or more inches. And in 3 of those 9 cases, Joe, among the top 10 of all time snowfalls at Central Park for a winter season, including number one, the winter of 95, 96,
Right.
where we had 75 inches of snow. So, what I'm saying is, if these numbers work out the way they have 9 previous times, we should somehow, somewhere, sometime between now and the end of the winter season, see what do they have now? 10.5 inches. We need another 39. We need another 29.5 inches to hit 40 and make it 10 out of 10. And I think between now and let's say the end of March, early April, I think we have a fairly good shot at getting another 29 inches of snow at Central Park. And as I've also said, it feels to me like we're going to be in for, not to say that 10 inches is you sneeze at, but I'm thinking of like one of those 1 to 2 foot jobs in Central Park, either in I think February or maybe in March. Again, I think it's going to be a backloaded winter for us. So all you weather fans out there, don't throw in the white towel just yet because I think it's coming. The snows are coming.
Yeah, but
If
Joe,
not now,
if it hadn't snowed in all those 9 winters, those stats would have all been wrong.
yeah, and even
I mean, look. I'm not Smadam Mott on this chat board. I'm not, I'm not trying to like come at you in a negative way because he even comes back. He says, "I still would have been wrong, but I wasn't wrong." That's the point. Okay. See, my problem, and I look at the chat board when I can, and I do read posts, and I just want to leave. I just want to put this out there for those of you. You cannot work in the weather world and survive if you spend your time making these absolute statements about the weather a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now, 3 months from now. You won't survive, okay? You'll get them all wrong because that's just not how it works. You can only know what's in front of you, and then everything else is modeled for you, and those models are flawed. So, you could look at all the data, all the teleconnections, and everything else. If you walk away from those by making statements about what the weather's going to be like for the next 3 months, you're going to wind up being wrong far more often than you're going to be right. I'm just want to make that point. And I don't think, Joe, you will disagree with me about that
no, why would I?
because you're trying to forecast variability over a 90-day period. And by the way, you can also throw out at me the teleconnections, the Madden-Julian oscillation, and a whole long list of things. I was told I was told by many, you got to have the negative NAO. Well, please explain to me the winters of 13, 14, and 14, 15. Okay, because we had, not only did we not have a negative NAO, but guess what? We spent a lot of we spent a large portion of those winters with a positive Arctic oscillation. So explain that to me. The Madden-Julian oscillation. Oh, it's in phase this and phase 4, 5, and 6, and it's going into the circle of death, and on and on and on and on. Well, if we sit here long enough, I could pull you up examples where the Madden-Julian oscillation, both directions, by the way, where we've been in supposedly in the favorable phases and never saw a flake or an ice pellet. We've been in the unfavorable phases and we've gotten hit with heavy snow. So don't fall back on all of it. It works when it does, and it does work most of the time. But there are enough exceptions to the rule that require you to keep a very, very wide open view about what might happen down the road. That's that's my little rant of the day. Okay, I've been wanting to do that rant for a long time, but I finally got the excuse to do it when I was reading some of the stuff that was on the chat board tonight.
And that statistic that I mentioned about Central Park, Joe, a few moments ago, if you want to go the other way, and as you know, we had a very warm month of November, and I did again a survey of the Central Park's years where uh, 4 degrees or higher. I mean, abnormally warm Novembers in the past. There were 9 of them, and in 7 of those 9, and this is if you're not a snow lover, 7 of those 9, uh, 77.8 probability of a below normal winter snow wise for New York. So that kind of is the opposite of what I just mentioned with the 9 out of 9 years with, um, well above normal or 7.7 inches or more snow in the month of December. Warm Novembers are not good if you like snow. Now, in the 2 years, however, where a warm November was followed by an above normal snowfall, there were 2 of them in 1948 and 2015. We could attribute that chiefly to a big snowstorm that dumped a very large amount of snow in one sitting. December 19th, 1948, seventh heaviest snowfall in one day at Central Park, 15.8 inches. And January 23rd, 2016, the heaviest one day snowfall ever recorded, 27.3 inches. Those were the 2 cases where snow ended up above normal following a very warm November. But again, it was due to one big dump of snow as opposed to a lot of little snowfalls amounting to, above normal. So it depends upon which way you want to go. If you
Right.
don't like snow, then hang your hat on that warm November that we just came out of because the statistics say we shouldn't have a lot of snow. On the other hand, if you like snow and want snow, the 7.7 or more inches in the month of December, 9 times out of 9, we've always had well above normal snowfall. Which way are we going to go? Which is going to win out? That's what we're going to be looking at in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead.
Peter Bicker on the chat board. Peter, if you were here right now, I'd give you a big hug because Peter's defending me. And Peter gets very upset because he's in South Jersey, so he's got to fight that everything changes to rain there. But I appreciate the support. But Smada, you're saying it again. If it were not for the December 17th snowstorm, heat storm, I would have been wrong about not throwing in the towel. But we did have the December 17th snowstorm. Your argument is from what you were posting, and I've seen your post, we should not have seen a flake or an ice pellet. You're the one that was wrong, not me. So I don't understand that. It's like, you're saying basically if it wasn't for the fact that it snowed in the winter of 95, 96, it would have been the least snowiest on record, and that's what I forecasted. That's what you're saying.
Wait a minute, Joe. Here's Samata Mott says the only reason that she is calling for a mild February is because there has not been a cold one since 2015, but also because the old Farmer's Almanac is prognosticating a warm February for 2020. Well, we already had 2020. I'm wondering if she means 2021. I guess he means 2021.
Unless we play a repeat performance
We
of
did have a
2020.
warm we did have a warm February 2020, but
Right.
I think she's alluding to 2021. So she's hanging her hat on the old Farmer's Almanac.
All right. Well, look, you're making a forecast. I have not spoken yet about. I have not really said. Um, I haven't really said anything about February or March, and I'm not going to because I really don't have any opinion with regards to the long range. I've said many times that um, I'm not a long range type of guy. I don't like to sit here and I don't like to sit around looking at weather maps trying to figure out what it's going to be like 2 to 3 months from now, mainly because when I tried to do it, I didn't do very well. It's just not my thing. Okay. Friday is my thing. Low level cold air is my thing. Trying to, figure out whether the temperatures are going to be several degrees colder and how that's going to impact the forecast, uh, the upcoming forecast. That's my thing. Okay, that's where I feel that's my stronger suit. I don't. I'm not big on going 2 or 3 months from now. I just have never been able to get my head around it. That's just me. Some people are really into the long range.
Now,
Um,
see, the one nice thing about astronomy versus meteorology is you can look years in advance and be absolutely 100% correct in most cases. Now, Johnny Quest says, Joe, that he wants you to ask me, but I saw the message up here already. Any astronomical events in January or February? And I'll tell you what, at the end of the week, hopefully it will be up and posted if they do indeed put it up when it should be put up on space.com, and I'll post the link when it is up. I do a whole year's worth of the top 10 astronomical events coming our way in 2021. And you'll be able to take note of any and all things that are coming up this upcoming year. Nothing really overly spectacular or sensational, except for June. June, I think we're going to have that sunrise solar eclipse. I really hope that we have clear weather or hazy weather that morning, Joe, June 10th of this upcoming year. The sun is going to be coming up not as a big orange ball as it normally does, but it's going to be coming up 80% covered. It's going to come up looking like a big honeydew watermelon slice. It's going to be probably the most unusual sunrise that most of us will ever see in our lifetime here from the New York metropolitan area. And naturally, of course, it'll be cloudy and rainy that morning. But if it's not, it should be really something special. And again, when my when space.com posts at the end of the week the top 10 astronomical events, I'll post it here, and all of you who are interested can look up and see what is coming our way for the upcoming year of 2021.
Back to Swat Ahmad says, I'm not a professional, so I'm allowed to prognosticate. Absolutely. I encourage it. I think you should all. No, and by the way, no, this is all in fun. Let me make this clear. It's all in fun. I said this the other night. The point of this show is to have a good time. All of us are here because we share a common love of weather and meteorology, and maybe deep down inside, we're all snow weenies at heart. I totally get that. I'm just as much a weenie as anybody else, which I keep separate from when I'm doing my stuff professionally. I know when to not be a weenie. Okay, so absolutely, I encourage everybody. You should have your own opinions. Look at what's going on. The models are all out there for free for you to look at. You didn't have to get on a bus and transfer 3 times to go to a weather office in Queens and cross a bridge in order to look at weather maps when I was in my late teens and early 20s. Isn't that right, Mr. Rayo?
Yes,
So
I know
you
what you're
have it
talking.
all in front of you, and you should really get into it. I mean, it's wonderful to see that all of you are into all of this, and I don't want anyone to misunderstand me. I am not coming at this from any kind of anger. I am coming at this from the point of let's have a good time, and yeah, it's okay to have a healthy disagreement, and that's what it is. That's one of the things that's gotten really wrong in this world, and I really, I miss. Uh, is we've become a world where you can't have a healthy disagreement in a conversation with somebody, and that's one of the things I want to be able to continue to do on this channel. This is not about um, you know getting angry and getting upset because You didn't get an inch of snow, or you didn't get 6 inches of snow, or it rained instead of snowed, or it snowed instead of rain, whatever. We're here about getting, doing weather, doing it the best we can, and having a good time at it. And I'm really glad that a lot of you are here every night doing that. And in fact, speaking, go ahead, Robert Brown. What?
Robert Brown says Joe Rayo has his Hollywood Square sweater on. I don't understand that. My Hollywood Square
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, it's not from Dicker and Dicker of Beverly Hills. That we could say for sure.
Actually, this looks like something from the Spiegel catalog.
Oh, maybe
Spiegel.
the diamonds in the middle there, the diamond shapes.
I don't know.
You must elaborate, Robert, on that. And while
am I in the center square tonight?
It could be. I do have, by the way, we have Scott Briller's out doing COVID runs again tonight, so I think he's working right through New Year's. Stay safe, Robert. Scott. Well, Robert, you too. Stay safe. In fact, everybody stay safe from
Big X.
from COVID.
That's what he's talking
about. The Big
about.
X. Oh, X gets the square. Yeah, it is. As if you didn't see. Okay, gotcha. But I do have a Briller Jeopardy for you. So are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. In 1917, on this date, a weather record started in Central Park and has not been equaled in 103 years. And if I give you if you get it right without any hints, you get a gold medal. If I give you one hint, then you get a silver medal.
Well, 1917, wasn't that that was a very cold winter year, wasn't it?
Right.
I'm just saying, it's and it stood all the way till now, right? 103 years.
Right. It started today.
Started today.
Mm-hmm. You can ask for hints.
The longest consecutive string of, I'm not going to say sub-freezing. That's the longest consecutive number of days where we bottomed out below zero.
That's it. That's it. 4.
Really?
4 days of below zero temperatures for lows. So you got the gold medal there.
Oh, thank you.
So I don't even have to give you the hint. So December 29th, 30th, 31st, and January 1st of 1718 for 4 consecutive nights that the temperature fell below zero. Those lows were -6, -13, -7, and -4.
Good Lord. You talk about a spell of cold weather. Now, here's something crazy, Joe. You want something crazy? I remember this because this was the year that my beloved wife and I, we were married in 1984. This was our first winter together as a married couple. And I remember it was 2 days after we had 5 inches of snow in Central Park. 2 days after 5 inches of snow on this day in 1984, the record for this date, 70 degrees. So we had 5 inches of snow, and 2 days later, it jumped to 70 degrees. How do you like that?
Crazy.
Crazy stretch of weather.
All right, Mr. Rayo, it's 8:45, so let's wrap it up. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by, as it is every night, the Omni True Value Hardware of West Babylon, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, Long Island's largest rock salt provider and a provider of everything from mag ice melting pellets and flakes, Petalo premium snow and ice melter. That's the best, I've been told by the snowplow guys. Biomelt, geomelt, spreaders, shovels, snow blowers, and so much more. So prepare ahead for any of the winter storms that are headed our way, and there will be more that will be headed our way. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, 631-756-1125, or just go to the website, which is omnitruevalue.com. And we'll be back tomorrow night, correct?
We will. Yes, we will.
And we'll be here Thursday night, correct?
Thursday, I'm not going anywhere. I don't have any plans for Thursday night. I know your daughters are scattered all over the eastern part of the country. I have 2 kids, and we invited them to spend their New Year's Eve here, my wife and my son and my daughter-in-law, they turned us down. And my daughter, she's probably going to be up where she lives. So what else is there for me to do but to spend my part of my New Year's Eve with you, Joe?
And I will be spending it with you, and very happy to do so. So we'll see you tomorrow night, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. David Fuller, Steve Lapointe, or Lapointe, whichever way you pronounce it. Thanks to both of you for hitting super chat tonight, and good night, Mr. Rayo.
Good night, Chet.
Good night, David.
David.
Good night, everybody.
Yes.
So I'm just